Well, welcome. I'm Tom Loucks, Communications Director, and we have our year in review as we promised back in 2021. As you can see, City Administrator Steve Barg sitting next to me.
Tom, it's great to be with you.
Thanks for joining me. Well, Steve made a big list here, and there's some really good things in here that we want to talk about. There are some challenges that we want to review that were in 2021. But let's kick it right off with changes in elected officials back in the spring of 2021.
Yeah, we've had a couple of changes, and some of them, show the challenges we've dealt with as we go through them. But when Bob McManus was removed as mayor back in March, we decided to just keep the council president be in charge, and that was initially Tom Witzel, but that's now Nick Paschal. He's doing sort of the baseline duties of the mayor position in a way. And then Brian Varsho won an election in April, and he defeated Ken Bargander, so Ken stepped aside after 2 years on council, and Brian joined us representing District 4, and he is still there. We had a lot of staff changes, Tom, and staff changes are hard. At any level, you lose institutional knowledge, you lose a lot of skills, and they're very difficult. I'm just going to name some of the positions that where people moved on, oftentimes in the director or assistant director type of roles. But Scott Owen, our fire chief, has retired this last month. Ron Ullman, our finance director for 3.5 years, left to take another position back in November. Sam Warp, after a great 10 years with us, unbelievable, the great things that he accomplished in wastewater. He retired recently, and we wish him well. Rick Gramza, our former police chief, has resigned. He's not here anymore. Steve Burns, who was the zookeeper for 10 years, has resigned to take another position. We wish him well in his new endeavor, and I'm sure he'll do great wherever he goes. He's a very talented man, and we thank him for all of his years of service to the Wildwood Zoo. Amy Van Wy, our former accounting manager, had to leave for health reasons, and we certainly wish her well. Kelly Cassidy resigned retired, I should say, as our recreation manager, and Kurt Bornbach, who'd been an assistant superintendent in the street division, he stepped aside after many years of great service to the city. There were many others. I can't go through them all, I'm sure, of employees who have left, but we thank them all for their service, their energy. It's our employees that really make this a great place, Tom, and we're thankful for them. A couple of new hires I want to just touch on in recent months here. Jennifer Solinsky, she is right now our acting finance director. She was hired to be the accounting manager, replacing Amy Van Wy. And Amanda Bruce was hired and began back in August to replace Kelly Cassidy, our former recreation manager. I also want to especially note Nikki Anderson. Nikki's been working to make Wenzel Family Plaza a vibrant place for several years, but she's now, as of January 1st, Tom, a city employee under the direction of Justin Casperson in the Park and Recreation Department. Again, I recognize there have been a lot of other hires along the way that I haven't noted. These are just some of the positions that are perhaps more visible and more talked about in some of our meetings. And we thank everybody who's joined us. We're excited to have them on board, and we want to see them grow and develop in their positions.
All right, Steve, thank you for that, and appreciate all those employees. Without employees or a team, or I say people, we don't go anywhere. No one does.
Well, and I say this at the budget time all the time, Tom, is we are a people-driven business. We don't make products. We don't specifically sell services. Our budget is largely personnel, and that's what makes our community what it is. That's what makes our city what it is.
Right. All right. Let's move on to, we got to still talk about COVID-19. That's what we're going to move on to. There's still concerns, as everybody knows, and some of the numbers out there are higher than they were a year ago. But what happened this year already?
Well, Tom, I don't know about you. I never dreamed back in January of 2021 when we were sitting here that we'd be talking about COVID yet. I certainly hoped we wouldn't. And my wish for the new year is that we see a reduction in cases and see us get back to more normal, but it hasn't happened. There have been ebbs and flows. In fact, in January of 2021, Tom, when you and I talked, City Hall was actually closed to the public. We weren't taking any tax payments in person. We weren't seeing anybody inside the building. So right now we are, but as Tom mentioned, the caseload is really up. In fact, I think the other day, Wisconsin had its highest number of cases in the entire pandemic. So, now it's the new variant that we're dealing with, but City Hall is open, but we've had some challenges. We were closed, as I said, for a couple of months back at the early part of 2021. We had some problems because we've had periods, and that was one of them, where maybe not a lot of employees had COVID, but they'd been exposed. They'd had close contacts with people, and therefore they had to quarantine. And that day may come again. It may, I hope not, but we've been in contact with the community. You've been a part of that, Tom. You've done a great job with publicity. Meeting with leaders on Zoom, leaders from the school district, the tech college, the Chamber of Commerce, the clinic, the county health department, and others, planning for what do we need to do as a city to respond and get out in front of this so the citizens know that we're really on top of it. And that's been helpful, I think, in the efforts of us collectively and individually. So we're monitoring it. There's not a whole lot more I can say right now, but we may take further measures if need be. And right now we're all waiting for what comes out of the court system on the federal mandate. I might note that the city is not initially affected by the president's mandate, even if it's upheld by the Supreme Court, because that's for private employers, but it's widely believed that it will be extended to public employers by the state of Wisconsin, and that we will be impacted by whatever that decision is. So we're monitoring that very closely as well.
All right, Steve. And cities had financial problems, as we've known for the past few years. I don't like to say the word problems, but I should say challenges, as you wrote it. I said problems, but talk about that and where we're heading. It sounds like we are heading in the right direction now.
We are, and one of the toughest public meetings I've been involved in, I think in my entire 3 decades in local government, Tom, was back in January of 2019 when we had to share the news with the council that had been uncovered by our finance director and by our financial advisor, Ellers, and that is that we had misallocated some TIP district funds and we were using them to subsidize our annual budget in ways that we really shouldn't have. And that kind of uncovered the fact that we had some challenges. But I've got to commend Ron Ullman, our outgoing finance director, the mayor and the council. Unbelievable how they've walked through it with us, stood by us, increased taxes where need be, adopted policies where appropriate. We've come a long way, and we've stopped the drop in our bond rating. We're hopefully going to go back up in the next couple of years to where we were. Hopefully have a good call with Moody's this spring when we do the annual borrowing. Our budget this year did include a 2.5% tax rate increase, but that's pretty much what our neighbors had. And the 2.5%, I know if there's members of the council watching right now, and probably a lot of viewers are bristling at the thought of, Mr. Barg, you accept a tax increase? That's hard on us. But given inflation, given the increase in costs, you're likely to see those in the future, but we want to hold them as low as we reasonably can while still funding the services that we need to fund in a way that is appropriate and is going to keep us moving in a good way.
Yeah, unfortunately, you go to the grocery store or anywhere, I've been noticing the expense is just like, wow. I don't think I've ever remembered it in my lifetime to be this high, except, fuel. But you go there and you can spend $200 and like, whoa, it's gone.
Yeah, and maybe the city doesn't buy meat, right, but we buy a lot of the same products. We buy supplies and Post-it notes and paper clips and all these other things. Not to mention, we're hearing from our Public Works Director, Dan Kinect, that the expectation is that street construction costs will go up in 2022 because, that 5% inflation we're seeing is affecting everyone. So the cost of doing business increases. It's hard to prevent a tax increase, but we're trying to be as fiscally responsible as we possibly can.
Yeah, definitely. So let's move on to another piece that's really good news. We have a brand new subdivision ready, pretty much shovel ready, I'll call it, for new homes.
Yeah, we do. Daniel's addition is really exciting. We've talked about it a lot in recent meetings, but it's 23 new lots over at the 5th and Lincoln area. I understand that 14 were pre-sold, and a couple of those have now been signed on the dotted line. But we've got a company now called Next Home. They're doing marketing for us. Ashley Frederick and those folks are doing a great job of getting the word out and using technology and other means to try and let people know that these lots are available for sale. We are expecting to see building begin in early 2022 on some of these lots. And that'll be, can you imagine driving down Lincoln and seeing that vacant lot suddenly see homes popping up? We've been criticized in the past for not having enough vacant lots to develop. So I have to commend Josh Miller and his department, Dan Kinect, Tom Turkey, the city engineer, all the people who worked on pulling this together, the vision for it, the execution of all the details to get the land acquired, the infrastructure constructed, and the council, again, for fully supporting this along the way, and the Economic Development Board, who was at the heart of this project as well. It'll be good to see new housing opportunities coming online.
Yeah, glad to see that, Steve, here. I moved from Plover, and that's a booming area, and a lot to do because of Highway 51, 39. But when I moved there in 2004, Walmart didn't exist. That whole area was a field. It was pretty amazing. And then even where I lived, I it was a field, now all developed. So glad to see Marshfield move into that, similar to our neighbors. We have Marshfield Clinic here, biggest employer of our city, and one of the bigger employers here in central Wisconsin, if not the biggest. I don't know, maybe Century is pretty big too, but it is a big employer, and we do need people, doctors, nurses, to be able to come here, live here, and be able to build a home and a family. So,
well, yeah, and maybe we use that to dovetail into the TIF District 13, which is on the list too, because that has a mixed use TIF district component that includes housing, and we're looking for up to as many possibly as 60, or at least in the 50s, new single-family lots that are going to come out of that, and those will be priced a little bit lower than the ones at 5th and Lincoln. Maybe a little bit more affordable for some people, but hopefully in the 250 to 300 range. And we're excited to see opportunity. The goal of people who do what we do here at city government, Tom, is to be able to have what I call life cycle housing, which is to have a community that no matter where you're at in your life, you can find housing. Is there entry level? What about move up? When you're in your career, you got kids, you need more bedrooms. At some point later on, you're an empty nester. You're downsizing. Do we have the opportunities for people at different price ranges and different life situations to find the housing that they're looking for, or the opportunities that they're looking for? And I think these are big steps for us.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you're not downsizing. You're going to have grandkids, or you do have grandkids.
Yeah, I'm not downsizing, but I'm an empty nester. Yeah. My wife and I are, and we've got a home up on the north end of Marshfield that works really well for us. And that was when we went looking 10 years ago when we moved here. It was good that we could find some options that fit for us. Now, some people are looking for existing homes. Some want to find lots to build on, but we want people like me who came from, in my case, Ripon, to be able to have homes to look at or lots to look at that make them excited and have the opportunity to live in the community.
Yeah, Steve, I had the same chance back 2019. I moved and looked at building, then looked at lots and looked in the city. So glad to see there's some improvement here. And so you talked about the TIF District 12 and 13, yep. And now we're going to talk about a little bit about, there was just a small increase in our taxi fares. Do you want to mention what that's about?
Going up as of, well, it happened now. I've been saying it's future, but now it's finally here. January 1st of 2022, the taxi rate was increased to $3 for ride for those who are seniors or have disabilities, from $2.85. And again, I just want to say, we've talked about inflation, we've talked about all the things that are driving costs up. We don't take this lightly. We know how important that taxi service is to people, especially certain people who need that service for doctor's appointments, groceries, all the things they need to really have a good life. And so when we increase it, even 15-cent increase, Tom, it's not done without a lot of thought, but costs are increasing, and whatever's not covered by the grant or the fares, the city needs to pick up that tab, and we need to try and make sure we're not having that amount get too large, because we definitely want the council and the mayor to be supportive of that service for many years to come.
Yeah, it's a very important service for our elderly, not even our elderly, our shut-ins, our people that need to get to the clinic, just really about anybody. Because anybody can ride that that needs to get to point A to point B.
Right, I didn't mention the regular fares. They're staying at $5 for regular fares, and that service is it's a good service. I mean, some people need to understand what the shared ride concept is. That's how we get the grant money, is by having it where if you're going from A to B, you might have a rider, but you pick up another one when they call. And I know that sometimes throws people off kilter, but it's a good service. It's well run by Running Incorporated, and we're thankful.
Well, no different than a bus that has to stop at multiple stops, pick it up. They don't go from one place to the other very often. So, all right. If you're just joining us, we're doing a year in review, 2021. We're a little more than halfway through the list that Steve Barg came up with. So let's move into, new City Hall hours. Let's talk about how that came about. Yeah, well, there was a proposal that I brought forward to the council to try summer hours for the month of August. So for 4 weeks, we would close at noon on Fridays, and because the traffic is lighter during the summer, a lot of people are getting away to their cabins and camping and whatnot, and they're not really coming into City Hall during those hours. And it was a success. It was good. It gave a chance for our employees to do the same. Now, I want to mention again, if you haven't heard this before, all employees still work 40 hours a week. They could work different schedules. A lot of them just work from, stayed earlier or later or came in earlier. Others decided, hey, look, I'll just eat my lunch at my desk and keep work right through that.
but they were required to put in full 40-hour weeks, however they did it. Some employees chose to just stay on Friday afternoons and work their regular 8-hour days. But it was a success, and it was so successful that when I gave a report to the council, they suggested making it year-round. That didn't come from me. I was going to suggest doing it for the summer of 2022, but they felt that in this technology environment where more people are accessing our services online, we don't see as many customers as we did 5 or 10 years ago. You can get a building permit and all these kind of things without coming in because we have a website that allows you to access a lot of these policies and procedures and forms. So they wanted to do it year-round, and we're in the, I don't know, maybe the 4th month of that now. And it's going pretty well. I think people have adjusted. And certainly if people have a problem or an issue that they need to meet with us on Friday afternoon, if they let us know in advance, we've made special arrangements to do that. But for the most part, it's going very well.
Yeah, and for those that want to just drop something off, we have that new box right out front of City Hall. They can put their tax payment in there, I believe, too.
Yeah, and this might be a good time, thank you, Tom, to talk about tax payments. You can still come in and do it in person, despite the COVID issues and stuff, but other opportunities include that box right out in front of City Hall, or mailing your tax payment in. And I know with both of those, people think sometimes, wait a minute now, I want that receipt. Is it going to get to me? I mean, all the evidence I'm seeing is that we're getting these receipts mailed out within 2 or 3 days, and people have it for tax purposes and their records and all that kind of thing. Or I think there's a couple of banks that will take those payments. At least one bank I know of that will take the payments. So there are other options for you that keep you from having to come into the building.
They can get that information off our website, or just give us a call. And we're here 7:30 to 4:30 Monday through Thursday, and then Friday till noon.
Yep.
Glad they'll help you out. No problem there. Or stop in and say hi. There's always someone there over a lunch break right now during Monday through Thursday. So.
And actually, that's the thing. Our lunch coverage has gotten better as a result of this. And sometimes people might come in at noon and, well, so-and-so can't help you, or there's not enough people. This has allowed us to really do a nice job of overlapping lunch coverages in a way that we have better front counter service and service in general. See, I'm dying to jump back to one item on the list if I can.
Yeah.
Vanity Waters. Because this is probably our greatest success and triumph of 2021. And again, you and I have talked about this many times, Tom. It was the oldest municipal pool in the state, 85 years old or something. And that is not an honor you want. I mean, sometimes you celebrate somebody has turned 100 and how exciting that is, or the 150th anniversary of an organization. Having the oldest pool in the state is not an honor that you are seeking. And anyway, Vanity Waters was built as a public-private partnership. The city committed $3,000. Yeah, that wouldn't go on very far, would it?
No.
Bought you a little bit of water. $3 million. And the public was, to raise $3 million through a donations campaign. We produced, way more than that. The public was very generous. I think we raised maybe closer to $4 million by the time it was done. I'm not sure, but it was well over $3 million. And that opened in late July. We would like to have had it open earlier, but we had some issues with some delivery of plaster and whatnot. But I've heard that the people who came, it was like the final 5 or 6 weeks of summer, in droves, just loved it. And the revenues were up, the excitement was up, there's a great buzz, and I assume that that's going to kick off 2022 the same way.
It does, and you can get your tickets now. Call Parks and Rec over there, and you can get your tickets. I think there might be a little of a deal. I'm not positive, so don't take me for granted on that, but I know I put something out about it. Now I can't remember what I did, but get your tickets early, and even though it's cold over there, you think, well, not yet, but that's just like anything in the summer. You got to start planning. I just booked my camping.
Oh, good for you.
Or you don't get it.
You don't get in.
You don't get in nowadays.
No.
But not saying you won't get in on the pool. Plenty of space, big pool. A lot of fun. Did you get a chance to jump in?
I didn't. And like I said, it was only open for 5 weeks, and I think I was gone a couple times out of town and some other things, but I will. And the idea that they're not only selling regular passes, but they're selling season passes, and it's a great opportunity to get excited for the summer. And really, truly, when you live in Wisconsin, right now as we're doing this, it's not bitterly cold, but you dream of June, July, and August. And Vanity Waters is going to be a great way to enjoy it.
Yes, it does, especially when you got out this morning and had to clean off the car.
It does snow off your car.
Yes, that was no fun.
No.
All right, let's move into Marshfield Clinic. They're putting up a new skywalk now. You want to talk about the tax exemption and the skywalk?
Yeah, the tax exemption kind of flows into the skywalk. January of 2021, the clinic did request tax exempt status on 2 parcels, the one that the main clinic building sits on, and then also the east wing on the other side of Oak. And they made that argument based upon the fact that they believe it's really a hospital use. And hospitals do have an exemption in the state of Wisconsin. The city assessor looked at it. He didn't see that there was a reason, at least with what was presented to him, to agree with that request. And so the council ultimately, based on the assessor's recommendation, did deny it. And the clinic is pursuing it, legally, and that's certainly their right. And so right now, we're headed toward possible court, and perhaps that won't happen. We're still talking to each other regularly. We've done a lot more communication in recent months about how we can collaborate, coordinate. Our rapport with the clinic is great. They're our biggest employer, our biggest taxpayer, and we're thankful for all they do in the city and what they mean to our community. But in this case, for the moment, we don't agree. Maybe we will ultimately after more information comes out. But we are right now talking with attorneys, and they are as well, about, are they deserving of tax exempt status? And the other piece of this that you alluded to a minute ago, Tom, is the skywalk lease. They wanted to build a skywalk directly from the hospital to the east wing so they could transport patients over there without crossing Oak. And maybe some of the people listening to us right now have never crossed Oak during the day, but it can be pretty busy. There's a lot of traffic over there, people coming and going from the clinic, patients and staff and others. And it's not very convenient to wheel somebody across Oak at certain times of day. So they're building it right now. I don't know what the status is, how far along it is, but I know they've made a lot of progress. That was held up for a little bit by the city for some questions and concerns. It actually tied back to the tax exemption request. But it was approved by the council in October, and they've been building it ever since. So we're happy to have the clinic in this community. They mean so much to the city and the surrounding area. Perhaps we'll work out some kind of settlement on the tax exempt status, but otherwise it's just 2 organizations, doing what they believe is best without any animosity, without negative feelings toward one another. We need one another. It's just something that we don't agree on for the moment.
All right, well, that'll be discussed at times in closed session with the council. Is that right, with you and the council getting them updates? Yeah,
we'll get updates. And the council recently, Tom, back in December, did vote to have the city attorney be kind of co-counsel with the law firm that's been chosen for us by the insurance company. So Hap Wolf Graham will be in those conversations more, and we'll be getting regular updates on what's going on and what decisions the council might have to make at various points.
Okay, let's talk about strategic plan. That's important. We now have, it's a 3-year strategic plan, correct, Steve?
It is, Tom. And our first one was from 2019 through 2021, and we got off to a great start. I think 2019 and the first portion of 2020, we were really knocking stuff off the list. And then COVID came, and it's going to sound like an excuse. People might be sitting at home thinking, Steve, we all have to deal with COVID, okay? But what came from COVID and some of the challenges did put some of these other issues a little bit more in the back burner. I'm not saying we didn't accomplish a lot in the final 1.5 years, but it wasn't quite as much as we'd hoped to. So we proposed and gotten adoption now, Tom, for a new 3-year plan, and added a couple new categories, but it covers areas like communications, economic development, infrastructure, quality of life, all these kind of things that make a community what it is. And each of those has maybe 3 or 4 goals underneath them. So a total of about 20 goals for the 7 categories. And we're going to be more intentional in the next 3 years about tracking our progress and trying to get these things accomplished, looked into. In some cases, maybe we won't do them after we analyze the cost and whatever. But so I invite our viewers to hold us accountable too, to read up on the plan, track us to see whether or not we're making strides toward these items, because we want to make sure that in the midst of all the daily fires that we deal with, that we're still pursuing the higher goals.
So with this plan and hopefully COVID and things don't get in the way like it did before, will we be providing the council quarterly or yearly update?
What we're going to do is have quarterly updates at staff level and twice-a-year updates at council level. So you can look forward to June and December that will be before the council giving them updates. And again, even in the middle of the stream, they might say, let's say in December 2022, they say, you know what, we'd like to see you add a new goal. And they can amend the plan at that point, but they'll see us at least 2 times a year.
Okay, got a few things left. We got to fill our mayor and council seats for the odd districts. That's coming up here April.
Yep. Yep, we have, as best I understand, 3 candidates for mayor. There was a 4th that I had taken out papers, but my understanding is that person didn't return them with the required signatures. So we have Bob McManus, the former mayor, Ken Bargander, a former council member, and Lois Teestrake, who was a past president of the Main Street Board here in downtown Marshfield. And so they'll all be on the ballot in February because we'll have a primary now. Anytime you have more than 2 candidates for an office, you have to have a primary to narrow the field to 2. I might mention regarding Bob McManus, I've heard a few people say, wait a minute, I thought he was removed from office. The only thing that state law says when that happens is he couldn't have run the following month in April if we'd had a special election for the position, but he's fully eligible to run in the next regular municipal election, and so he's on the ballot with 2 other candidates. We have 5 council positions open, and Tom Butke, as I understand, is not running for re-election, but there is someone who filed for a seat. As for the other 4 seats, we've had all 4 file for re-election, and 2 of them have opponents. So those will not require primaries, Tom, but they will be on the ballot in April as contested elections. And I sometimes say I think that's good to have contested elections. And I may have said this on this program before. Somebody might be thinking, oh, so you're trying to get rid of council, huh? You're trying to change the council members. Not at all. I love working with their council. They're great individuals. And my only point is I think it's good and healthy to see people run for office because it shows interest and it brings out discussions about the future of our community. And it's good to see people involved. So anytime someone jumps in the water and takes a shot at it, I'm glad to see that because I'd like to see the discussions that follow in those kind of races.
Yeah, it means that people care in this community, want to make it better, and be a part of a solution is what I say. Yeah. So that's a good thing. Yeah. All right. Yeah, so let's look forward to a primary probably second week of February on a Tuesday, I'm guessing, right?
The date in the middle of February, I don't have it.
I don't have it either.
Now. And then early April will be the general election, and we will definitely end up with a new mayor because we don't have a mayor right now. And as far as the council, it may be the same 4, or at least 2 of them may be replaced if the incumbents lose. And then, like we said already, there'll be a new person representing District 9. So we're definitely going to have some changes when we do the organizational meeting in late April.
All right. Let's move on to the last piece. Yeah. Looking forward to 2022. It's here now. What are we taping? January 5th, right?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. A lot of things to look forward to. And the first one I want to mention is East 17th Street. That has been on the docket, trying to get this project done over by the fairgrounds since I got here. And they'll be rebuilding the 17th East from Maple to Peach, and that'll be with sidewalk. And I mean, it's just going to be a nice street when it's done. Our staff, including Dan Kinect and Tom Turchi and their crew, the engineering folks and others have been working hard to coordinate with the fairgrounds. Some of the challenges that they have with trying to have their property improved at the same time. We've incorporated some of that into the scope of the project. So that'll be a great improvement that people will see later this year. We're excited to see the new housing come online, both in Daniel's addition and in the new project that's looking to come forward in the southeast part of town. There's a company called Green Tree Development that's looking to put those homes in that I mentioned down in the area of 21st. And that'll be could be as many as 80 new lots coming on board for development in the next couple of years from those 2 projects. We've got some commercial development coming online. We probably know that TJ Maxx is going to be opening soon, hopefully in the former Office Max building. Harbor Freight will be in the Marshfield Mall. Working on some other possibilities going on here, and just trying to see if we can't get more development. Working on acquiring 125 acres, Tom, of new land in the area down there by the industrial park for future industrial growth. Working on that right now with UW Ag folks. So there are a lot of good things that can happen. Hopefully COVID will diminish, but if it doesn't, we'll deal with it. And we look forward to all the things that will come up that we need to address in 2022.
Yeah, 2022, it's already here. Before we know it, we'll talk about 2023, 2024, and it just flies. Time flies, as you and I know, as the older you get. I'm not trying to say our ages, but
we'd have to cut that off.
No, you just know that things go fast. Me, I sound odd saying this, but you know, when I work here, I want to push the time back during the day. You ever do that? You don't have enough time to get things done. Most people, well, I don't like to say most people, and I shouldn't say that, but you know, some people want to fast forward it back in school, like 3 o'clock, I want to be out. Here, I want to put it back because I can never get all my stuff done. So
it's hard. It's hard. Tough. So I want to say one more thing about the year ahead. We're hopefully going to, early in 2022, get some of these key positions filled that I mentioned. And I want to give a special shout out here to Pat Zepps. Pat Zepps has been our acting police chief now for over a year, and he's done an amazing job. I don't know how the whole police chief recruitment thing is going to go and where this is going to lead, but I just want to recognize him especially for the work he's done over this last 16 months to help us get through the challenges that we've had. But we will hopefully have a new finance director and wastewater superintendent and fire and police chief and all the things we talked about. And that'll bring about new ideas, Tom, and new opportunities.
Sounds good. Thanks so much for joining us here, Steve and myself, Tom Loucks. And this is our first year in review. I don't think we've done one. Maybe we have, but one more this in depth, I don't think so. So thanks for joining us again, and we'll look forward to 2021 and fill you in as things happen as we spoke about here. Take care.